Good evening. It's now 6:30, and I call to order the regular meeting of the Victoria City Council. Please join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The first item on our agenda this evening is announcements. The City Council will be hosting a City Council workshop on Friday, April 26th from 12:30 to 4:30 p.m. at the Victoria Fire Station to discuss Victoria's South Growth Area. The City Council is scheduled to host a workshop on May 13th at 5 p.m. to discuss and review the city's new fire station design. And lastly, the City Council will host its annual volunteer recognition event on Monday, June 10th at 5 p.m. at Bayfront Park and the Carlson Thune Bandstand. That concludes the announcements for this evening. We do have two proclamations that I'll read from the dais. The first is a proclamation to recognize May 6th through the 10th, 2024, as Teacher Appreciation Week. Whereas teachers do their best to ensure the best learning curriculum for our students, whether in school or in a distance learning environment, working long hours and coming up with inspiring results to complicated obstacles so our students can succeed both in and out of the classroom. And whereas teachers are the key to unlocking the endless potential our children come to school, with supporting them to become well-rounded students socially, emotionally, and academically prepared to achieve excellence. And whereas everyone benefits from educators who are empowered to lead, allowing them to best prepare young people to become contributing members of our community, thereby strengthening our democracy. And whereas teachers play many roles in our students' lives as mentors, motivators, and listeners, creating lifelong ties with their students, and that assistance and guidance stays with students long after their school days. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the City of Victoria that the City of Victoria City Council recognizes May 6th through 10th, 2024 as Teacher Appreciation Week. The second proclamation is a proclamation declaring May 2024 Mental Health Awareness Month. Whereas mental health is important for our individual well-being and vitality, as well as that of our families, communities, and businesses. And whereas mental illnesses affect most people in America, whereas mental illnesses affect almost people in America, and whereas this does not include the significant ripple effect on their families and friends. The impact of mental illness reaches families, neighborhoods, schools, and workplaces. And whereas the stigma and fear of discrimination keep many who would benefit from mental health services from seeking help. And whereas promoting mental health awareness in communities and erasing stigma for those seeking treatment is raising awareness around the fact that mental health services are not simply a therapist or a medication prescriber. Caring for mental health may also include services and supports that help individuals recover holistically, inclusive of their social, vocational, and community contributions. And whereas mental health recovery not only benefits individuals with mental health disorders by focusing on their abilities to live, work, learn, and fully participate and contribute to our society, but also enriches the culture of community life. And now, therefore, be it resolved that the City of Victoria City Council is hereby recognized May 2024 as Mental Health Awareness Month in the City of Victoria, Minnesota. Our next order of business is to adopt the final agenda. Council, is there a motion to adopt the final agenda?
Motion to adopt the final agenda.
Can I get a second, please?
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll move on to our next item, which is open forum. This is the opportunity for anyone to address the council on an item that's not on the agenda and not an application form that will be coming to the council at a future date. No one has registered to speak in advance, and if there's anyone in the audience that would like to address the council on an item that is not on the agenda, please step forward. Seeing no one, I will now move on to the next item on our agenda, which is the consent agenda. Items on the consent agenda are routine administrative and do not require deliberation or are housekeeping items required by law. They're approved with one vote unless someone requests an item to be considered separately. Ms. Swanson, does staff wish to pull any consent items for separate discussion and vote this evening?
Mayor, thank you. Yes, staff would like to pull item 5.4, which is consideration of a resolution designating a qualified official newspaper.
Thank you. Council, is there any other items that you wish to pull from the consent agenda? And anyone in the audience who would wish to pull something from the consent agenda? Seeing none, clerk, please let the record reflect that item 5.4 has been pulled for future discussion. Council, may I have a motion for the balance of the consent agenda item, please? Consent agenda, please.
I'll make a motion for the balance of the consent agenda.
We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries. On to item 5.4, which was removed from the consent agenda for a separate discussion and vote. Ms. Swanson, please.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, members of the council. This item is being pulled for transparency as we want to ensure that the public is aware that, one, earlier this month, staff and the city was informed that Chanhassen Villager, our longtime official newspaper, is going to no longer exist after April 27th. And then letting them know that this item is to consider a new newspaper as their official newspaper for the city. What that means is that any official postings that or publications that the city has to do, whether that is for financial information, election notices, meeting notices, ordinance changes, etc., those will be published in this new newspaper. What's being considered here is the Waconia Patriot. That's staff's recommendation. It is matching the same amount as what we're currently being charged to the Chanhassen Villager. So our 2024 budget will not be impacted as part of this, and we'll continue to reach out to the newspaper for 2025 data to look at future budgets. But with that, I will stand for any questions from council.
Very good. Thank you, Ms. Swanson. Council, any questions on this item? Comments? Seeing none, I will entertain a motion, please.
Motion to adopt the resolution designating the Sun Patriot as the City of Victoria's official newspaper.
Very good. We have a motion. Can I get a second?
Second?
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Now moving on to our regular agenda. The first item this evening is item 6.1, Downtown West Phase 1 Development Update. Presenting this evening is our Community and Economic Development Director, Jen Brewington. Ms. Brewington, welcome.
Hi, thank you. Thank you, Mayor, members of the council. So I am here tonight to give a quick update on our Downtown West project. So the city owns a 13.5 acre parcel by the Dairy Queen, known as Downtown West. And in 2016, the city council adopted a downtown master plan, which guided that parcel for a mixed use with commercial, office, and residential uses. And then in October of 2021, the city council authorized a preliminary development agreement with the team Marco McLean Development to create this proposal for phase 1 for Downtown West. And then in October of 2022, the city council approved the final plat for a market rate apartment building with 145 units in a central green space. Now, that's just some background information on the project. The developers are here tonight to give a update on where the project is right now, and I will let them give you some more information.
Very good. Mr. Marco, Mr. McLean, welcome. It's good to see you this evening. Please state your names for the record, please, and provide us a great update.
Tim Marco, Marco McLean Development, 17158 Stonebriar Circle, Prior Lake.
Marco McLean Development, 4296 Gadwall Court, Eagan, Minnesota.
Very good. Thank you.
Madam Mayor, members of the council, thanks for having us. Seeing the dates on there brings a bit of joy today. I think we have a positive update on where things have since we last talked in November. We've submitted our full plan set for building permit and review. We've gotten some of those comments back. We've gotten our final GMP with our contractor, working on our construction contract with them as we speak. It's been a long process from the debt and the equity side of the world, but we, as of a couple of weeks ago, have full lender approval on our project, which is a great step. No easy feat in today's market. We've raised essentially 95+% of the overall project cost to date. So we anticipate shortly here, 2, 3, 4 weeks maybe, that we'll be able to satisfy one of the conditions of our purchase agreement, which is evidence of funding to complete the project. We don't have a closing date quite yet. We're working through all of our legal documents between our operating partnership, loan closing docs, like I said, the GMP. But as we all know, it's beautiful outside. It's construction season, so we are looking forward to a post-Memorial Day closing and groundbreaking. So once we have that date, we will be sure to give you all advance notice so we can bring all of that years of work together and see this thing come true finally. So
Very good. Positive news indeed.
yes.
Yeah, we're
yes.
excited about that. Thank you.
Yeah, so if there's any questions, we'd be happy to answer any. Otherwise, we'll continue to communicate with Jen, staff, Dana, and make sure you're all up to speed on as we iron out a couple of these last few documents. So
Very good. Council, any questions for Mr. Mucko, Mr. McLean?
So you're well ahead of the extension that we granted you, right? Because doesn't that expire in November? It's June 1st, okay. Great, so that has to be an excellent feeling for you guys, correct?
very much so.
Okay, very good. Any other questions, comments? Okay, very good. We don't need to take any action on this evening. It was informational only, and good information it was. So thank you very much for joining us this evening to provide that.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
Very good. The next item, Brook Creekside Second Edition. Presenting this evening is our city planner, Brian McCann. Mr. McCann, welcome.
Yes, thank you. Tonight we have the final plat for Huntersburg Creekside Second Edition from Tradition Development. As you know, the preliminary plat for the Huntersburg development, formerly known as Rolling Hills, went to Planning Commission and City Council in April of 2021. And then recently, the preliminary plat for Huntersburg Creekside came to you in October of this past year. The final plat for the first edition was also approved at that same meeting in October, given the unique circumstances that you had already reviewed and approved the Huntersburg preliminary plat. So some background on the request this evening. They're proposing 48 of the lots of the remaining 50 that were in the previously approved Huntersburg development. The plans have not been modified from previous approvals for the total 70 heritage and tradition lots, which include the proposed 48 lots for final plat this evening. It's zoned planned unit development with R1 underlined zoning. This was done with the Huntersburg First Edition plat. They'll retain that same zoning designation and PUD standards for those 48 tradition and heritage lots. And as I mentioned, this completes 48 of the remaining 50 lots. They do have this outlot G on the corner, which will be 2 more lots eventually in the future when Rolling Hills Parkway is extended. And then the final plat this evening is generally consistent with the approved preliminary plat. Regarding the future land use, it's designated as low-density residential, which allows 2 1/4 to 6 units per acre. The net density of the total Huntersburg Creekside project comes out at approximately 2.28. The net density of this specific phase is 2.92, so all of it aligns with our future land use plan. Here are the regulations that were approved with the Huntersburg PUD. The request tonight includes 12 of the tradition lots and 36 of the heritage lots, and none of the Revere lots. All of those were completed with Huntersburg First Edition and Second Edition. Regarding the development fees for the proposed 48 lots, these fees were included in the development agreement for Huntersburg Second Edition, as well as the parkland dedication fees for those 50 lots. So there are 2 lots still available for that credit. Meanwhile, they do have 13 remaining executive lots in the Huntersburg Creekside development. So maybe only 11 of those will be counted until we know when those future 2 lots are going to develop in the future, but just for background information. So here are the conditions of the approving resolution for you to consider tonight. They were included with your packet and are in the resolution for approval. And the sample motion this evening would be to adopt the resolution for Huntersburg Creekside Second. And with that, staff can stand for questions, and the applicants are in the audience this evening.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. McCann. Council, questions on this Hunters Brook Creekside, second edition? All right,
Nothing, Mayor.
seeing none, I will entertain a motion.
Motion to adopt the resolution approving the final plat for Hunters Brook Creekside, second edition.
We have a motion, can I get a second?
Sec-
We have a motion and a second by by Councilmember Evansky. A motion and a second, all in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. Council, there are no more items on our regular agenda, so with that, we will move on to reports and emerging issues. Attorney Vos, any reports from you this evening?
Mayor and council, as Mary and I chatted about for a minute before the meeting, lots of things ending in the legislature now, things not moving forward. Nothing, though, that really is a burning issue to bring to your attention, I don't think. And beyond that, legally, we don't have any, nothing exciting to report, which is always good news when the lawyer doesn't have much to report. So
It is indeed.
So that's fair.
Yeah, it is indeed. Thank you. Ms. Swanson, anything from staff?
Nothing from staff, Madam Mayor.
All right, council members, anything this evening?
Nothing, Mayor.
All right, seeing none, I will entertain a motion to adjourn. Oh, Derek had something?
I just, going back to the weed conversation, there was an article about lottery for cannabis licenses. How is that working, or what is that working? Is that,
Mayor and council, so I don't know is the real answer, but I think I know that that is not fully hatched yet. The state agency, of course, still doesn't have a full-time leader, and the rules, I guess, are being worked on, but they haven't been released. I think there's been a committee working on them, and so somebody has seen draft rules. I haven't, but those have not been released yet. I will tell you, in the way of issues that are important to cities, there is a group of city officials that are working with the agency on city-specific things that include how would a city that wants to be in the selling game or the growing game do that, given that it's federally still not legal and thus you can't bank in cannabis products.
Yep.
And so that's a hot issue among some number of cities that are interested in that. And then the other thing is, this would be more applicable to all cities. There is, as you well know, both in the law and what's expected to be in the rules, the ability for cities and counties to limit the number of licenses that can operate in your community. And so even a city that says we don't want to be in this regulatory game at all, the county at the county level can still limit the number of licenses within the county. So regardless whether a city wants to do that or not, I suspect you're going to consider that when the time comes. But regardless whether a city wants to do that or not, there will be likely limits. And it's, as of now, not clear exactly how that's going to work, because it seems to tee up the idea that it's a race to get to the state, to get your license, to get in under whatever limit applies to the city or the county that you want to do business in. And so that feels a little awkward, that it's literally going to be sort of a race to get these licenses. And so cities have some interest in sort of figuring out exactly how is that going to work. Are we as city folks going to know where in our community folks are proposing to put these businesses? How many are we going to have in our city, and do we have some control over those issues?
well, that was my question, is if it's a lottery, if we decide we have a business who's already expressed interest in selling, but someone else wins a lottery that wants to put one here, does that supersede what we want for our community? Because we have one where we want, and a lottery tells me that if you win it, you get it, and that kind of scares me a little bit.
Yeah, and Mayor and Council, I don't want to say something that ends up not being true. I will say that having an existing business that's sort of appropriate for adding that kind of sales, and having that store having a location in your community already, certainly is not going to work to their disadvantage, right? I mean, that if anything, that will work to their advantage once the final licensing process gets worked out. It may be neutral, it may not matter, but at a minimum, it's not going to make things harder, obviously, if you've got a location and you seem to be an appropriate place for those kind of sales. I'm not super optimistic, though, having heard now from the agency and spokespeople for the agency that there's a desire at the state level to give cities a lot of authority over this subject. That seems to be tilted the other direction, and obviously city folks would like to have some say in all these issues. But how much we're gonna have, I think, is yet to be fully fleshed out.
Very good. Anything else, council? All right, seeing nothing else, I will ask for a motion to adjourn.
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. We stand adjourned.